Welcome to the Diary of a Christian Single Woman, where you hear her innermost thoughts and prayers while also hearing the Lord's response in return. Sit back and relax, grab your journal and pen, pour you a cup of coffee or tea, and go on this journey to self-discovery and growth in the Lord. It's time to spill the tea, sis. Hey, ladies. So one of the things that I enjoy doing in my downtime is scrolling TikTok. So bad. It's so addicting. I see some of the craziest and even funniest videos on there that lift my spirit, keep me encouraged, and make me laugh like a lot. Some stuff is just ridiculous, and you wonder why people would even put themselves out there like that. But for the most part, my FYP, my For You page is pretty interesting. And so as a single woman, I see a lot of other women on the app who are offering encouragement to the single ladies, admonishing them on what to do and not do or take in relationships. And some things I agree with and others I don't, of course. But I have been seeing a bit of a trend on #Christian TikTok, and I wanted to talk about it today. And so quite a few Christian influencers that I've seen, men and women, have talked about knowing when to walk away from a relationship or a situationship and not waiting around to see what's going to happen or pray that the person returns to you if they walked away from you. And so I'm a comment reader, right? Like while the video was playing, I'm reading as many comments as I can. And I noticed that the women would comment about how they were hurt that the man walked away from them with no explanation, but they kept trying to reach out to find out what happened, or they would pray that God would bring them back, or they told the man that they would wait for him while holding out hope that he would return to them. And then, of course, in the end, after reading majority of the comments, the general consensus was that the man never returned. In fact, he got with someone else. And now the woman is left traumatized and heartbroken because of her expectations. And so I've already mentioned the story of the guy that I was talking to before that ghosted me for someone else. What I didn't mention is how I was that woman that waited on him initially because he asked me to. And he sounded extremely sincere in what he was trying to do. He had never been in the situation before on being interested in two women at the same time. And he wanted to take the time to, quote unquote, pray about what he should do. So I thought, well, given that you're going to God, I can wait on that. And so I will correct and say he didn't really ask me to, but the insinuation was there. It was, I understand if you want to walk away, but I would feel some type of way if you do. Right? So that was what I got hit with. So it was the insinuation that he actually didn't want me to walk away, even though my initial thought was to walk away. Okay. So, however, while this was going on, and because I can hear from God for myself, I was also praying for him, and for me in this situation. What I didn't do, was ask for God to bring him back to me, because that's what I wasn't feeling to pray for. Like if someone doesn't want to be with me, you don't want to be with me, right? But what I felt to pray was for that God's will be done in the situation. And if he returned, cool. However, if he didn't, then cool, because then that meant that there was someone better suited for me still out there. But God, oh my gosh, you guys, God in his great and infinite wisdom and love for me spoke to me exactly a week in during this waiting period. It was like at exactly a week that I was quote unquote waiting, and he told me my next move. And so I remember it as clear as day, right? I was in the kitchen wiping down the cabinets after washing dishes, and the Lord said to me crystal clear, it's time to move on. I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I just smiled to myself and I was like, yes, Lord, because by that time in my heart, I was already done waiting, because I already knew. Like I knew what the answer was going to be before the guy and I even got off the phone. I actually used the waiting period to do what I explained in episode 5, because I knew that this guy and I were done, even though he tried to drag the situation out more than necessary. And so now I will say that even though I knew what the answer was because I felt it and the Lord confirmed it, I'll be honest and transparent and say I was hopeful. So I held out a little bit longer just to see if I could have been wrong, The guy and I had one final conversation. I think I mentioned that in the last episode, where I laid it all out on the line, and then we never talked again. And so, of course, the Lord was right, and he knew it anyway, of course. And a few days later, while I was cleaning the kitchen again, I don't know how the Lord talks to y'all, but I find that the Lord talks to me a lot when I'm cleaning the kitchen. Like, basically when I'm cleaning in general, when I'm doing the laundry, when I'm, cleaning the floors, sweeping and mopping the floors, like he'll start talking to me. And so I think I was sweeping this time, and I heard the Lord say to me, "You are not a placeholder." And that sentence stopped me mid-sweep. Like, no lie. Like, I literally just stopped sweeping. And I just repeated to myself over and over. I repeated it to myself. You are not a placeholder. You are not a placeholder. You are not a placeholder. And I asked the Lord what he meant by that. So, of course, we need a definition, right? Y'all know I love my definitions. So a placeholder, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is a person or thing that occupies the position or place of another person or thing. I think I'm going to repeat that. A placeholder is a person or thing that occupies the position or place of another person or thing. So in my situation, I was just the placeholder for the woman that the guy really wanted. And when she finally returned, she came back and took her rightful place, which meant that I no longer had a place with him. So God was saying to me, and I believe to all of us single ladies, that we are not placeholders. He did not put us here just to stand in the dating line with a man until he waits for the one he really wants to return. We are the line. We are the first. We are the only. Not just for right now, but for forever. We deserve to be put at the head of the table and the head of the class, and not to be disregarded as just a stepping stone to the right one, but we are the right one for the right man. And so I encourage those of you who are waiting on a man to decide if he wants to be with you, to help him make the decision and roll on out. Because the right man for you will not have to put you on pause or waste your time trying to figure out if he wants to be with you or not. The right man for you will be very intentional and will make it known that he is not going anywhere because you are where he wants to be. In my situation with that guy, he said that he wasn't setting out to waste anyone's time, but that's exactly what he did to me. However, instead of viewing it as my time being wasted by him, I viewed it as additional time with God that allowed me to intentionally step back, center myself, and realize that I deserved better than what I was presented with. And so when I took inventory of all of the men that I've heard stories about them not wasting time, when he was with the woman that he wanted, including my dad, I knew that I had sold myself short in waiting for this guy. Because there are a lot of men out there who, when they know that the woman is the right one for them, they snatch her up and they don't waste no time being with her, right? And so this is definitely not me wanting to sound like I'm bashing the guy, because it definitely wasn't all bad with him. I enjoyed the time that we spent together, right? And I genuinely think that he is a good guy. However, the waiting process in between there definitely taught me some valuable lessons. And one of the lessons is that it kept me close to the Father and allowed him to talk to me directly about what was happening. And then he gave me instructions on what to do next, which I really appreciated. And so Psalms 27:14 says, "Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait for the Lord." You know, in this situation, I was waiting on both the guy and the Lord, and the Lord spoke to me first, which I am so grateful for. You know, two, this situation allowed me to start the healing process early because I knew from the first conversation when he informed me about the other young lady that we were no longer going to see one another. I knew it. Like, I just had to come to terms with it emotionally because I was so hopeful, like we all tend to be when we are presented with someone new, right? And so maybe I was overly hopeful, but I was, you know. And so three, it allowed me to see areas in me that I thought were strong, but were not. And so I think I mentioned before that my self-esteem did take a bit of a hit, and my thinking about myself, you know, took a hit as well. And that's what shocked me the most. And so it allowed me to see that there were still areas within my thinking and within my heart and how I viewed myself that I still needed to work on. And I think I look at this situation as a blessing in disguise, because even though it sucked to go through it, I did see the lessons, and then I was determined to grow from the lessons and not make the same mistakes. And so had this situation not happened, I probably wouldn't have known these things that I still needed to work on because I thought I already did, you know. And apparently I needed to work a little bit deeper. And that is completely okay. Like, all of us still have work that we still need to do internally, you know. And so since I am a big proponent of developing my character as a woman, I look forward to continuing to grow, you know, in whatever process the Lord would have me to grow in. And so I know it gets hard, sisters, when you are hopeful for someone and then the rug is pulled from underneath you and then you see them happy with someone else while you're still single. Just know that you are valuable, that you are worth it, and that God is writing a love story tailor-made for you that will make you glad it didn't work out with anyone else. You know, continue to do the work necessary to grow in your character, in your self-esteem, in your self-worth, and in your relationship with God. Take every disappointment in relationships as a lesson to continue to grow and get better. It may not have worked out with that guy the way that you thought it would, but God has someone out there who will recognize your greatness, your beauty, your character, your love for God, and he will want everything that you have to offer. You will no longer be a placeholder, but you will be the one and only, period. Okay? There will be no guessing, no confusion, no does he like me or not? The intentions will be made known from the beginning, and you will have clarity from the jump. I decree and declare that over all of your lives. That's what I'm looking forward to. And I did forget that being in this last situation, but best believe I remember it now, and so should you. Thank you for listening to the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman podcast. Remember, ladies, that God loves you immensely. There are no bounds or restrictions to his love. Always seek his face, hear his voice, and live his word out loud. If you have any questions or if you would like to hear anything addressed on this podcast, you can follow us at the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman page on Facebook. You can DM me at the Confessions of a Christian Single Woman page on IG. And make sure that you join me every Monday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the private Facebook group where I go live and discuss every episode and also have the ability to talk to you all directly. Until next time, may the peace of the Lord go with you this week.